I wrote a little article about pole shaking the other day because I do it every day. It's one of my dailies. And it seemed that some people were interested. And part of my goal for this 100 days training isn't just to kind of make myself always do it and hopefully inspire other people to make sure that training becomes a part of our daily lives. But I want to just share what I actually do, what it's actually like to train every day, what I work on. There's lots of guys like me out there that are training all the time. It's what their life is like. So I'm trying to hope to encourage people to share what's up. Anyway, so because pole shaking is a part of my daily, and people seem interested in it, I thought I would just share it. I'm going to start off with the very first pole shaking exercises I learned. So the basic rules here is you should have your hand at the very end of the staff. This staff is, I cut this out of my yard, piece of bamboo. It's built as a spear length, so it's directly above me to the top of my wrist is the length of it. There would be a spearhead on top of it at that point. So if you're cutting a piece of wood, if you want a good pole, that's what you're looking for, right? Up to the how high you can reach, essentially. And it has to be flexible to pole training. Before I even talk about anything else, let's talk about that. The flexibility of this bamboo, right? Okay, it's pretty flexible stuff. If what you're doing in pole shaking is correct, this is what I put in the article, then the pole will shake. If it's wrong, it won't work. However, you have to have a flexible pole. If you're using a hardwood pole, number one, it's not going to shake. And number two, the shaking of the pole is a result of the power in my body being connected enough to get to the stick and then ideally out the end of it. Anytime I make a mistake in my body, like my arm is up too high or my hips out of place or whatever, it'll mean that any force that hits that staff isn't being projected outward because of the mistake. It's going to actually kind of bounce back off of it. Sort of like if you punch something really hard, right? It punches you back with the same amount of force because it has no give, right? That's why you don't punch trees and stuff. You punch heavy bags because they're soft, they have give, all that sort of stuff. Same thing. If you do pole shaking with a hardwood pole, you can actually injure yourself. I had one of my teachers tell me this. I thought it was BS because I'm the guy who tries everything on himself. So naturally, I started training with a hardwood pole and I dislocated my neck. Awesome. And essentially, yeah, what happened was made a mistake in this movement. My neck was kinked out of place and the power, instead of coming around and through down the stick, came right out into my neck. It screwed me up pretty good actually for a while. Sucked. So, get a pole that is flexible. Doesn't have to be waxwood. That's what traditionally was used, in Asian martial arts. Doesn't have to be bamboo. I'm just lucky and I live next to the ocean now and this is literally in my yard. So, first exercise. Okay, so this is one of the very first ones I learned. My Kung Fu brother, Shug, when he was teaching me Yang style Tai Chi, this one is from him. So you want to have your hands apart just outside of your pelvis, or another way of measuring is just outside of the shoulders, okay? This is the spot. My rear hand needs to be right at the end of the stick. Sometimes you'll see, and I do this too, I'll put my fingertip over the end. That's literally just so I can tell exactly where I am on the staff if I'm sparring and things like that. But I'm trying to use the length of the staff to all of my advantage. So I'm going to use all of its length. So right to the end of the stick, and then this one measured up just outside. Okay, so this gives me about a third or something like that of the staff to work with. All right. So this was what I was taught from Yang style. Not sure if this was the first or second one, but so stone tablet of Tai Chi, which basically means there's not going to be any wobbliness. Okay, I'm going to just link the body together so that I become very biomechanically like a machine. Okay, so now if I want the pole to move forward and back towards the camera, Dantian, or my waist, will turn left and right. So just to make sure that, because I just might as well teach this, right? This is what's known as staying in place. Okay, they're staying in place and staying in space. My arms, my body, they're just staying in place. I'm not moving. I'm turning my pelvis. My arms and shoulders are doing sweet nothing except holding onto this stick. That means that it's the turning of my spine and the pumping of my legs that's moving the staff, right? So in the parlance of our times for martial arts internally, we would say that Dantian is moving first, right? And it's moving the rest of my body, which happens to be connected to a stick. Okay, so now I've got left and right movement. That's pretty easy to understand. So now I have to figure out up and down movement. So for up and down, it's the same idea. I need this stick to go up and down like this, but I need it to be as a result of my body turning. So the mechanics get weird suddenly. Okay? Because if I just go left and right, we already discussed, this just makes me go and sweep the stick back and forth. How do I turn this into up and down? So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to tilt my tailbone. So I'm going to just kind of lock my body, and I'm going to turn to my right, so the stick is kind of traveling towards my back. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to bend my rear knee, my left knee a little bit, and I'm going to tip my tailbone towards my front. How do I explain that? It's like I'm tipping my tailbone from, I'm taking, oh man, we have to use Tai Chi terminology. C1, which is the center point 1, which is if you were to drop a plumb bob from the inside of your skull down to the ground, okay, that's where your weight is falling towards the earth in 90 stance. So if I bring C1 over to one leg, my leg has the weight, my other leg can move, okay, just for terminology's sake. So when I rotate in the first exercise, C1 is doing nothing. C1 is just rotating like a axle in the ground, like this post, right? As soon as I tip my tailbone, so I turn, C1's rotating. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to tip my tailbone towards my lead heel, and I'm going to bring my weight back at the same time to my rear leg. That should give me a lift in my right hip, which is then you can see being expressed through my hands. But if you look, if you really, really look, I'm not moving my arms. I know it looks like I'm moving my arms, and this is the bloody problem in learning martial arts, at least it has been in my friggin' life, is that nothing appears the way it actually is. So, watch just one arm at a time. This arm's doing nothing at all, right? You see that? You see that? Now it looks like I'm pulling with this hand. So really watch this hand. It turns. I haven't bent my, actually, you know what? I'll collar my elbow so you can see it. If I collar my elbow, I turn, my weight withdraws, and as soon as I push my tailbone to point towards my lead heel, my hips will rotate and it'll want to pick up. See that? It starts to pick things up. I haven't done anything in my arm. So I've got this swinging motion from Dantian, or I've got now this lifting motion from Dantian. So this becomes my up in the pole shaking exercise. So I'm doing that, it's just really quick when I do the exercise here, right? I just turn, move really quickly, and then I put myself into the place where I'm supposed to be and I stop. That's why the shake. Okay? If I were to just keep moving, then I'm going to get a lot more power on my way back, whipping it and stuff. But this is why you see people practice it with like singular movements. Wham, wham, wham. Because they're trying to get the feedback off every move. If this doesn't shake, I have now got time to look at what my mistakes were and see what I did wrong. Okay, so that's up. So then down, obviously, is the yin-yang reversal of it. So I'm going to go from here to learn down. It's the exact opposite. So I'm going to retreat, bring my weight over to this side, tip my tailbone, and it'll drop my staff. So it's the exact same move. I'm going to really exaggerate it. I'm just putting this on my waist. So it's the exact same move, right? It's just that if I tighten it up and I make the movements smaller and quicker, I'm going to end up with a lot more force being projected. So, back to Shug's exercise. Thanks, brother. It's this. Just so you can see it from a couple angles. Ready? Yeah. So I'm turning and turning and turning and turning and turning and turning. First one I learned from Shug. The second one is the same exercise, forward and backward though. Doing it just like I explained earlier. So that's just back and forth. Back and forth. Without hitting the post up there. Yeah, right. First two pole shaking exercises I ever learned. Hopefully that helps. Enjoy. If you have any questions, just ask. I'm happy to share.